The stained glass windows of the Sainte-Chapelle Church in Paris glowed with the soft light of a winter morning. The intricate designs depicting biblical scenes cast a kaleidoscope of colors onto the stone floor, creating an ethereal atmosphere that seemed almost otherworldly. The air was heavy with incense and anticipation. The sweet, smoky aroma filled the vast space, mingling with the faint scent of old wood and stone, creating a sensory tapestry that was both comforting and mysterious. Parishioners settled into the pews, clutching their hymnals and prayer books. Their faces reflected a mix of reverence and routine as they prepared for the familiar rituals of the Sunday service. Some whispered quiet prayers, while others exchanged hushed greetings with their neighbors. They had come to hear Father Michel, a beloved figure known for his thoughtful sermons and gentle demeanor. His words often provided comfort and guidance, a beacon of hope in their weekly lives. His presence alone was enough to draw a crowd, filling the church with eager listeners. But this Sunday would be different. There was an undercurrent of something unusual, a sense of anticipation that was palpable. The congregation could feel it, though they couldn't quite place what it was. Father Michel stood on the altar, flanked by 4 other priests. Their presence was unusual, as Father Michel typically delivered the sermon alone. The additional priests added to the sense of something significant about to unfold. Their faces were pale, their expressions a mixture of fear and determination. It was clear that whatever they were about to announce weighed heavily on their minds and hearts. Father Michel cleared his throat, his voice trembling slightly as he began to speak. The congregation leaned forward, sensing the gravity of the moment. His usual calm and steady demeanor was replaced with a nervous energy that was impossible to ignore. His words, however, were not the familiar pronouncements of the Catholic Mass. Instead, they carried a different rhythm, a different weight. The congregation listened intently, trying to understand the significance of what they were hearing. Instead, they echoed with the unfamiliar cadence of Arabic. The language was foreign to most of the parishioners, adding to the sense of confusion and intrigue that filled the room. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah, he began, his voice gaining strength. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasul Allah. The words, though unfamiliar to many, resonated with a profound sense of conviction and purpose. A collective gasp rippled through the church. The shock was immediate and visceral, as the congregation struggled to comprehend the significance of what they had just heard. Confusion clouded the faces of the parishioners. They exchanged bewildered glances, their minds racing to make sense of the unexpected turn of events. Some whispered amongst themselves, while others stared at the priests in disbelief. The air was thick with tension as the reality of the situation began to sink in. The declaration, the Shahada, the very foundation of Islam, hung in the air. It was a moment of profound significance, one that would be remembered for years to come. It was a stark departure from the liturgy of the church, a moment that shattered the illusion of normalcy. The familiar rituals and routines were replaced with a sense of uncertainty and change. In that instant, the priests of Sainte-Chapelle announced their conversion to Islam, forever altering the spiritual landscape of their congregation. The impact of their decision would ripple through the community, challenging long-held beliefs and forging new paths of understanding and faith. Their journey to Islam had not been a sudden, impulsive decision. It was a path paved with years of contemplation, silent prayers, and a quest for deeper understanding. It was the culmination of years of quiet questioning and internal struggle. Each priest had his own story, his own moments of doubt and reflection. Father Michel, along with Fathers Jean, Pierre, André, and Thomas, had embarked on a study of Islam. They were driven by a desire to understand, to seek knowledge beyond the confines of their own faith. Their initial intention was to deepen their understanding of the Islamic faith. They believed that by learning about Islam, they could better engage in meaningful interfaith dialogue. They hoped to engage in interfaith dialogue from a position of knowledge and strength. They wanted to bridge gaps, to find common ground, and to foster mutual respect. They immersed themselves in the Quran, the holy book of Islam. They read its verses with an open mind, seeking to understand its message and its teachings. They studied the life and teachings of Prophet Muhammad. They were intrigued by his character, his wisdom, and his unwavering faith. They engaged in discussions with Islamic scholars. These conversations were enlightening, challenging their preconceived notions and broadening their perspectives. However, as they delved deeper, their academic curiosity began to transform. What started as a scholarly pursuit became a personal journey of faith. The priests found themselves drawn to the simplicity and clarity of the Islamic message. The Quran's emphasis on monotheism, on the oneness of God, resonated deeply with them. The concept of one God, without any partners or intermediaries, resonated with their own growing unease about the complexities of the Trinity. It was a revelation that brought both clarity and confusion. The emphasis on submission to God, on surrendering to a higher power, offered a sense of peace that they had been yearning for. It was a peace that eluded them in their previous understanding of faith. The more they learned about Islam, the more they questioned the doctrines they had preached for so long. Their faith, once unshakable, now seemed fragile and uncertain. The priests, used to leading their flock, found themselves questioning their own beliefs. They were shepherds who had lost their way, seeking a new path. The doubts they had kept buried for years began to surface with renewed urgency. They could no longer ignore the questions that plagued their minds and hearts. They met in secret, sharing their fears and anxieties, their growing attraction to Islam. These meetings were a sanctuary, a place where they could be honest and vulnerable. They were torn between their loyalty to their church and their yearning for spiritual truth. It was a conflict that consumed them, a battle between duty and desire. As they walked through gardens and looked up at the sky, they sought answers in the beauty of creation. They prayed for guidance, for a sign that would lead them to the truth. They documented their journey in journals, writing letters to each other, sharing their thoughts and discoveries. These writings became a testament to their evolving faith. They began to attend mosques, observing Islamic prayers, feeling a sense of belonging they had never felt before. It was a new world, yet it felt like home. In moments of deep prayer, they felt a connection to God that brought tears to their eyes. It was a profound, transformative experience. Together, they found strength in their shared journey. They stood in solidarity, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the sun rose, they felt a sense of renewal, a new beginning. Their journey was far from over, but they were ready to embrace the path that lay before them. The concept of Tawheed, the oneness of God, was a powerful revelation for the priests. It was a concept that transcended the boundaries of their previous understanding, offering a new perspective on divinity that was both profound and enlightening. The simplicity and purity of Tawhid provided a stark contrast to the complexities they had grappled with in their previous faith. It offered a simplicity that contrasted sharply with the complexities of Trinitarian doctrine. The idea of a singular, all-encompassing deity was not just a theological shift, but a deeply personal one. It allowed them to connect with the divine in a way that felt more direct and unencumbered by the layers of interpretation and doctrine they were used to. The idea that God is one, indivisible and all-powerful resonated with their own innate desire for a singular, unifying truth. This truth was not just an abstract concept but a living reality that permeated every aspect of their lives. It was a truth that brought clarity and focus, helping them to see the world and their place in it with new eyes. The Islamic emphasis on God's mercy and compassion also appealed to their compassionate nature. They found in Islam a faith that was not just about rules and rituals but about a deep, abiding love and care for all of creation. This emphasis on mercy and compassion resonated with their own desire to live a life of kindness and service. They were drawn to the Islamic understanding of God as being closer to man than his jugular vein, a God who hears and answers every prayer. This intimate connection with the divine was something they had longed for, and they found it in the teachings of Islam. It was a relationship that was both personal and profound, offering them a sense of closeness and comfort that they had not experienced before. The 5 pillars of Islam, the foundational practices of the faith, offered a framework for a disciplined and meaningful life. These pillars were not just obligations, but opportunities for growth and transformation. They provided a structure that helped the priests to cultivate a deeper sense of purpose and direction in their lives. Prayer, fasting, charity, pilgrimage, and the declaration of faith provided a roadmap for spiritual growth and connection with God. Each of these practices was a step on a journey towards greater understanding and closeness with the divine. They were not just acts of worship, but expressions of a deep and abiding faith. The declaration of faith, or Shahada, was a profound moment of transformation for the priests. It was a statement of belief that marked the beginning of a new chapter in their spiritual journey. The act of fasting during Ramadan taught them self-discipline and empathy for those less fortunate. Charity, or zakat, allowed them to put their faith into action by helping those in need. The pilgrimage to Mecca, or Hajj, was a journey of a lifetime, a physical and spiritual quest that brought them closer to God and to their fellow believers. The priests, accustomed to the rituals and sacraments of Catholicism, found a familiar comfort in these acts of devotion. They saw in the practices of Islam a reflection of their own spiritual heritage, a continuity that bridged the gap between their past and their present. These rituals were not just new practices, but a continuation of their lifelong journey of faith. They embraced the Islamic concept of submitting to the will of God, finding liberation in surrendering their ego and desires to a higher power. This submission was not a loss of self, but a discovery of a deeper, truer self. It was a path to inner peace and fulfillment, a way to align their lives with the divine will. The priests discovered a profound sense of peace in the daily rhythms of Islamic prayer. The regularity and structure of the 5 daily prayers provided a sense of stability and grounding. Each prayer was a moment of connection with God, a reminder of their purpose and their place in the world. The physical act of prostration, of bowing down in humility before God, resonated with them on a visceral level. It was a powerful expression of their submission and devotion, a way to physically embody their faith. This act of humility and surrender was a source of strength and solace, a way to let go of their burdens and find peace in the presence of God. They found solace in the recitation of the Quran, in the beauty and poetry of its verses. The words of the Quran were not just texts to be read, but messages to be felt and lived. They spoke to the deepest parts of their hearts, offering guidance, comfort, and inspiration. The words of the Quran, they felt, spoke directly to their hearts, offering guidance and solace in a world that often felt chaotic and uncertain. In the Quran, they found a source of wisdom and strength, a beacon of light in the darkness. It was a book that not only answered their questions, but also deepened their understanding and enriched their lives. The congregation of Sainte-Chapelle, a diverse mix of ages and backgrounds, struggled to comprehend the priest's declaration. For many, it was a betrayal of their faith, a shattering of the trust they had placed in their spiritual leaders. Whispers of confusion and anger filled the church. Some parishioners walked out, unable to bear the weight of what they had just witnessed. Others remained rooted to their seats, their faces etched with shock and disbelief. They had known these priests for years, had confessed their sins to them, had sought solace in their words. Now, these same priests were embracing a faith that many viewed with suspicion and fear. The news spread like wildfire through the community, igniting a firestorm of emotions. The priests' decisions sparked heated debates, dividing families and friends. Some parishioners condemned the priests, accusing them of heresy and blasphemy. They demanded their immediate removal, calling for the church to be cleansed of this affront to their faith. Others, however, responded with curiosity and a cautious openness. They saw in the priest's journey a sincere search for truth, a willingness to challenge their own beliefs in pursuit of something more profound.